guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Heather. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, elementary and high school age. Today I'm going to be chatting all about the books that I've been reading recently, so let's get started. Okay guys, I am trying to be better about my book updates. Last month I did share quite a few books that I had mainly read in May because I did not read barely anything in April and skipped a couple of months of videos. So today I'm going to be sharing what I've been reading in the past month, I guess. The first book that I read was The Opt-Out Family by Erin Lochner. And the reason that I wanted to read this book, well, first of all, it really lines up with my whole digital detox and all of that online stuff that I was talking about with my goals at the beginning of the year. And I really loved her first book, Chasing Slow, which I read many years ago, all about, slowing down and really figuring out what is most important to you. So this book, The Opt-Out Family, sounded so interesting to me because essentially it is her talking about opting out of technology and things for her kids. Now, I had a lot of high hopes for this book, and I think that on a broader scale, she did talk about a lot of things that are really great for young moms or moms of young kids. But I think that some of her ideas and tips are not really as applicable as your kids get a lot older. Now, I am not saying that your kids have to be online all of the time. We are a tech family. My kids' interests, my older two, revolve a lot around technology. We have been more of a create before you consume household, and that is something that I heard from Tish Oxenreider, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago at this point, from her old blog, Simple Mom. But I think that some of the stuff that she talked about just isn't realistic. And I think that's because she is a mom of young kids still and does not have older kids that she has to deal with. So I think that while it is a good idea to limit screen time, to really have conversations about opting out of a lot of those things, I don't necessarily find it realistic for older kids and like high school age. So, I may be in the minority. I did give that book 3 stars. I thought there was a lot of good information, but I also thought that she spoke from authority on some things that maybe she doesn't have experience with yet. And so it's a little bit harder. Yes, when you have elementary age kids and you are doing all of the planning for the rec sports, do you have to do it through Facebook? No. But when your kids are in high school and they're expected to manage a lot of their own schedule and take on some more of that responsibility, it's a little bit harder for you as the parent to come in and say, well, team, I think that maybe you should use just email or something else, or phone calls. So I think that if you have kids that are younger, it's a great book. I was a little disappointed because I did love Chasing Slow so much. The next book that I read was Nightbane by Alex Astor, and that is the second book in the Lightlark series. I loved it, gave it 5 stars, really excited. I think that there is a third book coming out. I'm not entirely sure when, though. I will have to look. I'm in the middle of a lot of series right now. The next book that I read was When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, and I gave that 5 stars. That is the first in a series as well. Fantasy. It's a really interesting concept that there are these dragons that are partnered with people, and when they die, they become a moon in the sky, and some of them fall to the earth again and cause destruction. It's a really interesting book. I definitely recommend it. It's one of those books, it took me a long time to get into it and to read it overall, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Again, I don't know when that's coming out, and that's why I know that people say don't just read finished series, because obviously you get more series if you start reading earlier because authors need to know that people are interested in their books. But I really have a hard time with series that are not finished, especially when they are traditionally published and it's years to complete a story. That's hard for me. The next book that I read was Getting Things Done by David Allen. This is a productivity book. I really loved all of the thoughts that he had on brain dumps and really how to organize your thoughts, how to give space for those things. It's something that we've been talking a lot about in my membership community, understanding that when we take time to get all of the thoughts out of our mind, it gives us more brain space that we need to do other things. But you have to have a system in place. It can't just be writing down random stuff and never addressing it, because then your brain won't let go of it. But if you do take the time to write things down and then have a time set aside where you can revisit these things and organize them and understand where you need to go, what the tasks are, what isn't really important, what you may need to journal about or think about more or delegate to somebody else, which is what I use my monthly reset day for a lot. It does give you permission. It gives your brain permission to let it go, so you're not constantly thinking about it. Definitely recommend the book. In fact, we are going to be reading Getting Things Done for Teens as part of my teens personal development work for this coming year. I will be sharing those resources with you soon, so stay tuned. This is not a subject that we teach in our homeschool, but a few years ago we started reading some more personal development type books like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, more time management type stuff, executive skills, those types of things, because I find it really important to teach my kids those things, and it's kind of fun for me too. So the next book that I read was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I gave that 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. It was a little bit sad. It was about this girl and her fiance dumps her right before the wedding and gets together with his childhood best friend, and she ends up moving in with the guy who was the boyfriend of the childhood friend. So and it's all about their story, and so I really enjoyed it. It was a good book. It took me like a day to read. I picked it up from the library on Friday and I finished it on Saturday morning. So definitely recommend, loved that. The next book that I read was The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros, and I love Fourth Wing and really enjoyed that series. And I know that she also writes contemporary, and so I was really interested to see what it would be about. And I did like this book. I gave it 4 stars. I did not like it as much as Fourth Wing, obviously completely different genres, but I needed something to read, and I found that, and I was like, you know what, let me try some of her contemporary. And she has a lot of other books out that I have not read. I've mainly just read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and now The Things We Leave Unfinished, but I definitely would recommend that if you enjoy contemporary. It was a good story. The next book that I read was a novel love story by Ashley Poston, and I gave this 4 stars, and I read The 7-Year Slip maybe in February and loved that book. It pulled me out of my reading slump after all of the Sarah J. Maas that I had been reading in the fall and January as I was preparing for Crescent City 3 to come out. I did like the story, but I think that I wanted more. I just wanted a little bit more from the story. Essentially what happens is this girl gets together with a book club at a house, like an Airbnb, every year, and this year everybody backed out for one reason or another. And so as she's driving, it's the middle of a storm and she gets lost, her GPS goes out, and she ends up in this little town, and come to find out it is the town that her favorite book series is centered around, and it's all of the characters from that book series in this town. And once she arrives, things start to change, and before that it had been very stagnant. Everything was always the same. Everything was always the same. And so when she arrived in town, things started to change. Now, she was only there for a few days, and that was the entire time length of the story. And with the love interest and everything like that, it was a little too insta love for me, even though they were trying to do more enemies to lovers, I think that was what she was trying to do, but I just wanted a little bit more from the character development, and it could be that that was the whole premise, that the characters weren't developing because the author had passed away, and so this town was kind of just left hanging and there was no growth for the characters, and so everybody, instead of having their happily ever after, were just kind of not just existing. So anyways, it was good. I enjoyed the book, but I just wanted a little bit more. And then the last book that I have read recently is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second book in the Powerless trilogy, and I gave it 5 stars. I liked it, but it kind of has that second book problem for me. The second book is never as good as the first book, and it was a good book, but nothing really big happened, and so I'm just waiting for book 3 now, which I don't think comes out until 2025. So those are all of the books that I've read recently. It hasn't been a ton of books. I haven't been reading as much lately, which is kind of funny. Well, I think part of it was the last week in June and the first week in July were, well, the last week in June I spent a lot of time focused on homeschool planning. The first week in July we were visiting with family, and so I haven't had as much time to read recently, but I am hoping that I will get into some more books. I'm recording this right before the new Deborah Harkness book comes out from the Discovery of Witches series. It's, what is it called? I have it written down, let me see. The Blackbird Oracle, so I'm super excited about that. And there are definitely some other books that are coming out later this year that I'm really interested in reading. But I have been struggling since I really have been struggling since I finished all of the Sarah J. Maas books in January, because I love fantasy books and want to find a good series, but I haven't found anything recently that's really holding my attention. So we'll see. We'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I will have everything that I talked about linked in the description box for you. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.